Welcome to OBM Unscripted, where the systems get sassy, tech tantrums are tamed, and real talk rules the mic.
We're your hosts. I'm Christy Beard, your go-to strategist and business coach.
I'm Benita Brooks, your operations and tech whisperer.
And I'm Lena May, the guru of systems and workflow magic.
We're all accredited OBMs, and we have seen it all.
If you've ever wanted to scream into a client brief, cry over Zapier, or Google, "Can I invoice for emotional labor?" you're in the right place.
This is your space for behind-the-scenes stories, hot takes, and community vibes for OBMs, VAs, and online service bosses.
Real talk, real answers.
Unfiltered,
Unscripted.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of OBM Unscripted. Today, we are talking about what we wish we knew before we became OBMs. A lot of people are looking up what OBM means, and they're coming across a lot of programs, a lot of information saying this is going to be your dream job. You can work from anywhere, and it's such a glamorous lifestyle. We may have a different take on that, so we're going to try and dig into things what we expected and things that didn't quite turn out the way we thought it would. We're talking about accreditation programs. We're talking about pricing, niching, lots of information in this episode. So we're hoping you stick with us throughout the whole thing. So to kick it all off, Lena, tell me about what you expected getting into the world of OBMs and how did your expectations pan out?
When I got my OBM certification, I thought clients were just going to come running because that's what I had been sold. I thought clients would come in. I just look at their business, tell them what to do, set up strategy for them, run their teams. I was very quickly chasing down clients, explaining what an OBM was. And once I got into businesses, they were even a hotter mess than what some of the trial and error projects were going through a certification course. So when people say they don't have a process, it really means they don't have a process because it lives in their head.
Christy, what about you?
Yeah, I think the same. I had an idea because I was doing the same things or was planning to do the same thing that I was doing in person, just in the online space. And wow, what a shocker. So in person, you can look at somebody and say, I need X, Y, and Z by X date, or they can literally hand you the file. But when you're online, it's a whole different dynamic where you have to send an email and let them know, I need X, Y, and Z from you. And then you have to wait for them to first open the email, read the email, act on the email. And then when they finally do get it back to you, then you get to actually do your work. So it's kind of like a delay reaction. So you know what you need to do, but you're like stuck in wait mode. And so I think that was one of the things that I wasn't anticipating, but I can totally relate with everything that Lena said as well. It is very much like you're a fisherman and you're casting out and you're waiting and you're bringing it in slowly. So yeah, I can totally relate to that.
So for the both of you, what do you think is the reason behind that expectation that you had coming into it and then eventually stepping into the role and noticing that things were different?
I think early on, had I known what I didn't know, it would have been easier to ask questions. And it always is, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But just being more cognizant of, okay, you're teaching me this, fantastic. But how is this going to relate to the real world when I'm doing this by myself? How are you getting this particular client so I can go target this client to say I have this experience now? That was sometimes in programs, you're promised a directory or a client funnel or these things, but you don't realize to ask the question, well, how many clients does that funnel bring you in? Or how many clients are picking out of this directory? What type of clients are they? How often are OBMs getting work from this? So those were all questions I wish I knew to ask in the beginning.
Yes, I would say too that even though you do, like what she was saying, you do your research on the different programs, you still don't know the right questions to ask that will help you to the end result that you're looking for, not necessarily what they promise. And some of the courses out there don't deliver everything that they promise, but you don't know that until you're already knee deep in the program. And by then it's like, okay, you just need to finish it out. So yeah, it's knowing that, because we don't know what we don't know. And so it is hard to ask the questions that are necessary to make sure or to help you get the end result that you're looking for when you do a program.
So I want to step away from the programs because I want to touch on that a little bit more into detail a little bit later. Outside of the program, I think when you were in your early days, early stages, looking up how do I make an online career work, and you came across OBM as a profession, what were your initial impressions? And then from there, after going through your journey, whether that was setting up your own funnels, going through a program, trying to get clients, trying to sell packages at the OBM level, what did you learn that you wish you could go back in time and tell yourself?
I think for me, it was be yourself and do something that you enjoy doing and don't try to do what everybody else is doing. First, obviously you want to stand out, but I think that is the best way to stand out. So do a brain dump. Think about what it is that puts you in your happy place and do more of that. And then everybody's like niche down and that's how you niche down. And I think that's how you get the longevity out of what you're wanting to do. And you're also going to draw in clients that are a good fit for you because you're doing something that you really enjoy doing. So I would say just make sure that you do something that you enjoy doing and create your packages around that and your offers and your services around that.
I want to turn this around on you because you have a different kind of take on it than Christy and I do, because you already came from a VA space. So I think our listeners would love to hear what was your expectation of getting out of the VA space going to an OBM?
I think for me, I had a past history working, in person, in operations, HR, and what have you. During COVID, of course, a lot of us moved online with our businesses. At the time, I was working with a digital marketing company, helping with operations. I wasn't calling myself an OBM at that point, but that was something that I was doing. I also was doing VA work on the side. So I was very familiar with the online space and, just how things worked and how to communicate with clients and how to, do your workflows around being online. But I think the shift for me was when I got into a position where I no longer had the position with a digital marketing company, and it was only solely a VA income. So my Googling started when I was like, I need to make more with my time, because pricing was a big issue for me. And, in the VA space, it's pretty competitive. So you can go with an agency and get paid, between $18 and $25 an hour. And this is Canadian because I am based in Canada. Or, you can get your work through there and that's your funnel. But realistically, when you look at cost of living, that's not something that's really a livable wage, especially in the province that I live in. So I wanted to figure out, how do I make my time worth more? And that's how I came across the title OBM. And, the marketing is out there that, you can make six figures and it's great. You can work on your own schedule. And so, of course, as I do with everything, I came in with a healthy dose of skepticism, thinking, okay, if I could just cover my expenses on this, I'm good. And then, you go in, you look at different programs, you look at different YouTube videos, and then, you go through everybody's different version of what they think an OBM should be. You get different accreditations, certifications, and what have you. Do want to touch on the accreditation part a little bit later, because that's like a whole other topic to dig into. But going through the entire journey, as I did, I think what I would tell myself is raise your prices earlier. I would absolutely say that. And I think that's probably a good segue to get into, pricing and pricing structure, and because there's a whole conversation to be had there. Because what I was seeing as a VA is that a lot of business owners opt to go offshore overseas, and they say, well, I can just pay someone in Asia $4 an hour and, get the same result, and everything's great and okay. So now in this environment that we're in, where a lot of businesses are cost cutting, they're trying to save money on the bottom line. The work still has to get done, but they want to, save their profitability. We do see a lot of companies opting to go offshore for now what people are calling OBM services, and they're paying $7 an hour US to get it. So I think my question for both of you now is, with your pricing structure and the way it is, how does that look like for you? Are you competitive with North American rates? Are you competing? Do you see competition with overseas VAs and OBMs? What are your thoughts?
I'm seeing more competition with people who are willing to work in office versus online, because my niche is real estate. A lot of the operations positions that are open, they want you in-house managing their team. The downside to that, because I have done that, is sometimes you're the only person in the office, so it doesn't matter where you're working from. So owning that during a conversation about needing real estate operations or an OBM early on is like, look, if you just want somebody to warm up a chair and be there, I can do that from home for the same price and probably get more done for you from home, because there's not constant interruptions of people coming by just wanting to chit chat, right? So that's a early conversation, but my value is also different here in the United States, especially in my niche, because real estate is changing. We've lost hundreds of thousands of real estate agents because the market has shifted. It's not easy to make money anymore. Real estate agents have to get more focused. They have to have somebody driving their operations. They have to have somebody cleaning up the back end, because now it's more competitive. So they've really got to get that back end in place. So when it comes to pricing, if you really kind of work, look, I'm bringing all this management experience to you. I'm bringing all this real estate experience to you. I have a license. I've done this. This is why I'm providing this at this rate. So you've really got to own your value and command the room, so to speak. And you're absolutely right. I would have raised my prices sooner had I known to ask that question.
And I think there are some fields that you can probably do okay with overseas, but in the US, we do have, like with HR and real estate, there are laws that change constantly. There's, new policies that are being brought in. There's all sorts of things that you do need to be able to keep up on, and it would be harder to do for someone overseas that's not familiar with the state that you're in or the federal, policies or enacting things that they put in place. So I think that's important too. I think for me though, I don't know, it was really hard since I've got almost 3 decades of experience in doing what I was doing. It was hard to put an hourly rate on what I did, and so I had to more focus on the actual end result and what the client was getting when I did my pricing, just because, my rate obviously is going to be different than somebody just starting out. Even though I'm just now getting the title of OBM, I've been doing the work for a long time. And I think that's something to consider when you're becoming an OBM. How long have you actually been doing the work? And what's the end result that you're providing to the client? And then that's kind of how you can adjust your rates or do your pricing. And also, too, if you feel kind of like where I was at, I wanted to move more into projects, coaching, consulting, and that sort of thing. So I was able to help clients to see where they could actually go with their business and what they could do with it. And that's also a different pricing. So it's I would say it just depends on like your services and offering structure and then experience.
I think the difference between a overseas VA and an overseas OBM is very different than a US or Canada-based VA, US Canada-based OBM. As somebody coming in, if you're an overseas VA who is looking to become an OBM, don't tell them you're overseas, because immediately their mindset is, oh, I can get her for cheaper. Well, no, because you're not just managing tasks, you're managing their revenue. And if they're having to tell you every single day what to do, you're still a VA. If you're taking ownership of their business, now you're an OBM. And that is the mindset shift and the experience shift that most people are looking for when they're out there looking for somebody to run operations or manage their business.
You know, I'll add to that because I've noticed that now they're trying to, even in some businesses, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, I'm assuming not, but I'm noticing that now there's not just VA or executive VA, there's strategic VA. They're just creeping on up as close as they possibly can to that OBM role without paying you OBM rates. Be very careful with that when you're when you're looking at a business or a company and you're looking to bring them on as a client, or maybe it's an agency and you're looking to work with them. Make sure that you understand what they're putting under that title as the scope of work, because you can very easily go and assume it's an OBM position and they're calling you a VA, but you're doing OBM work. So that's something I would say definitely watch for. And the title doesn't really matter. It's the scope of work, because they can say, because I was looking the other day, the strategic VA, that's a lot of stuff that I would do as an OBM, and yet they're not paying OBM rates. So just something to watch out for.
And I think positioning is very, very important here because, to be honest, when you look at VA programs and OBM programs, there are a lot of VA programs out there that teach you how to be a rock star VA, or they teach you to be the unicorn that's going to make the difference in your clients' lives. And literally, that's basically the difference between what a VA is and what an OBM is. We're just putting different labels and semantics, and I think that's probably hurting the industry more than helping it. Well, thank you both. This has been such an amazing and enlightening topic. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.